Hello, everyone. We're getting some partially contradicting information regarding the trilateral talks between US, Russia, and Ukraine. So, what they're saying is that it is set to go ahead this week, but it has been postponed. As of right now, the postponement is just a couple of days. So it was supposed to start today. It was moved out to Wednesday and Thursday, and we're back in Abu Dhabi, the same place where they met just last week. And yes, Zelensky did say that he would be sending a delegation to this. So here's the thing. Here's where I'm kind of wondering if this is still going to go ahead. The Trump administration continues to push for peace. And again, I have no illusions about this president or this administration giving a shit about Ukraine or Russia as anything other than a commercial opportunity and a source of various mineral resources and oil in Russia's case, and wanting to have credit for ending the war. However, here is the thing I'm wondering about. So we had that phone call that we talked about yesterday, right? From which the two sides walked away with completely different notions. Because what the Trump administration said was that Putin promised him not to touch civilians in Ukrainian cities for a week. But Kremlin is saying that no, this only pertained to Kyiv and only for 2 days. I don't know which one of them is lying, possibly both, but in light of the latest attacks, again, by Russia against Ukrainian civilians, I am kind of wondering what they're going to talk about at this next round of negotiations. And here's another complicating factor. So again, even as they are trying to meet to talk peace or whatever, Russia is trying to create another frontline break in Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region. Now, the situation is very grave. Kharkiv region has been just partially destroyed altogether, and Vovchansk is no exception. The town is basically wiped off the face of the earth. And this is what Russia has been doing rather a lot. What they cannot take right away, they start shelling to reduce it to rubble. And here's the thing. So this is another place, if you find the name familiar, there is a reason for it, because this is one of the places that already has been occupied by the Russians once, back in 2022. And then Russians were pushed out, but it is very close to the Russian border, only 3 miles walking distance, basically. And so it is no surprise that they're trying to push through there again. In addition, once again, there have been strikes against the grid, and they're still restoring from the massive strikes on January 31st. Initially, over 3,400 buildings in Kyiv were left without heating. And that was following the technical malfunction that followed the attacks, because as I mentioned before, that was going to happen. When you pound something that hard, there's going to be eventually stuff that's going to start breaking down. And so right now, more than 200 buildings in Kyiv still remain without heat, and they're back in the middle of another cold snap. And so, as the talks were scheduled, but they're still planned to go on, that is what the situation is. So there was that fake promise, that completely lame promise, to leave Ukrainian civilians alone, at least give them a breather through the cold snap, which turned out to be complete bullshit. There is the attempted breakthrough in Vovchansk. There is the continued, overload on the power grid. And there's now a new set of details coming up about the attack on the miners' bus in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In addition to basically an attack on civilians when Trump tried to convince everyone that civilians were safe, it was one of those double tap attacks when they hit the bus and then tried to hit the rescue workers who arrived on the scene, which is just such an underhanded, completely shitty thing to do. In addition to the strikes against that bus and the strike on the maternity hospital in Zaporizhia, there have been attacks on the railway infrastructure and other logistics. So, once again, the question is, what is the point in talking to them if it is impossible to believe anything they say anymore? I mean, that's been the case for a while. I mean, maybe they will be able to negotiate another POW swap. I'll be watching that. That's always, to me, a good thing, whatever else is going on. But it is unclear what the agenda is. Especially, as I said, considering that Russia continues to murder civilians. Now, here's something interesting. So, I briefly mentioned this last week. Basically, Ukraine had appealed to Elon Musk and SpaceX over the fact that Russia was using the Starlink to navigate their drones. And that actually turned out to be rather successful. For whatever reason, whether it's because Elon Musk is in hot water and nobody loves him, Tesla is tanking right now, or for whatever other reason. However, SpaceX agreed to no longer provide Starlink support for Russian drones. In fact, there are now rumors that they're using the Starlink satellites to jam the drones. And again, that is a developing story. I'm looking for more details on this. But if true, that would be a tremendous amount of help, because we talked about this last week. 80% of civilian casualties in this war have been due to the drone traffic. More to come.